All right. It says we are live. I'm just going to pop up the tabs and just make sure it does appear to be going live. Let's see. Okay.
So is this streaming live to Facebook then? Or
yes, it's streaming to YouTube, my YouTube channel, and to my Facebook page.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, it's live over on YouTube, and it looks like it's about to pop up on Facebook. So we should be good to go.
Yay.
All right.
I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, I see what I'm missing. 1 second.
Oh, yes, a teacup.
There we go.
All right. Okay. We're already getting some people saying hi. I think they're showing up on YouTube at the moment. It may take just a second for Facebook to catch up with us.
Okay.
But it appears it might actually work this time. Fingers crossed. Okay. There we go. It's showing up over on YouTube or Facebook now. Okay. So it took a minute. But
awesome.
We are here. I found with previous videos, it takes a second for us to get some questions popping up in the comments. So I will start with the questions I have for you.
Okay.
You recently, as in the end of last year, put on a big Regency retreat, which was loads of fun for those of us who didn't have to do the work.
Yeah.
So my question is, have you recovered from that yet? Because I imagine I wouldn't have. I would still be like hiding in a corner praying no one wanted to do it again.
Well, this is evidence of how fun it was. The day after the retreat, I slept all day.
I'm sure.
Venue, right? I slept all day. And then Monday, I went to the venue to put down a deposit for the next retreat.
Oh, so fantastic.
I only needed 1 day to think about it.
To come back. It really was fantastic. It was so much fun. Oh my gosh.
It was so fun. So the funny thing was, and the timing actually is pretty fortuitous because I don't think anyone's going to be planning on doing a retreat this fall. Because I was going to put down a deposit for this year. And when I went, 2 days after our retreat, the venue was booked solid the whole year with weddings every weekend. So I was like, okay, I guess it's 2021 for the next retreat. And so it's good because, I don't know that we know exactly what's going to be going on this fall.
No, we really don't. I mean, we make guesses, but who knows, right?
Yeah.
And it gives you a little extra time to plan it too, which it's such a big undertaking that
yes, it was huge.
Time isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, it was huge. But one of the things I'm excited about is they're adding on to the venue. And so the part that they're adding on to is going to be by the castle. And I was actually surprised by how many men came to the retreat and wanted to do manly activities. And so I'm thinking it would be really fun to have a men's quarter, and we could have like pretend gambling. I mean, gambling, but with pretend money.
Right. No, I know what you mean.
And like fencing lessons and a duel demonstration and all the things that men want to do. Of course, women will be over there too going, I want to do this too. But then they'll have something that's not bonnet trimming.
The men are like, thank you. Because as good as I am at trimming a bonnet, it wasn't super useful life skill.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Oh, too fun. Well, we are starting to get comments from both Facebook and YouTube. So apparently it worked this time. So hallelujah. Cindy is asking what new books we might have coming out. I'm going to ask you a slightly different version of that. Have you been working on something? I know it's tough because with our current lockdowns and you being a single mom with kids at home, but anything, something casual just for yourself?
Yeah. Well, so, I currently work on not killing my kids. And then on the times,
which is an accomplishment lately. Yeah.
And on the times I'm not killing them, I'm trying to restrain myself from wanting to kill their teachers for the homeschooling that we have to do.
Oh, what an adjustment, right? Oh.
But before all this started, before the apocalypse, I was working on 2 different stories and that I hope to get back to soon. So one of them is Regency. So it's I've probably mentioned it before, but working title is tentatively The Runaway Governess, and it's going to be fun and set in London and really kind of more Georgette Hare-ish than my other stories have been, you know. And then the other one that I'm writing that's really fun because it has a little bit of element of fantasy is a secret project. I was about to tell about it, and then I realized I can't.
I would have felt so bad if you were like, "Oh no!" So a secret project. We can happily leave it at that. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And I know I've talked to other writers, some of whom are just killing it productivity-wise right now, and others who are like, I'm just trying to get from sun up to sundown. And I hope that enough of us are starting to realize that the apocalypse doesn't equal productivity.
it really doesn't.
If everything is on hold right now.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Like when the apocalypse came along, I was like, oh, I'm going to learn Korean. And, you know, I know just like a few phrases. That's it. I'm like, oh, okay. It's been a couple of weeks and I've gotten a few phrases. That's about as much as what happens. And
good enough.
And it's interesting because a lot of writers are just like, I don't know, everyone has different ways that they work, you know.
Exactly.
I'm like, I have to have a sense of like, oh, my life is not blowing apart in this huge garbage fire,
right?
So I can relax and write. But
you don't write by the light of the garbage fire, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. But other writers, like, they are, you know, spurred on by stress. They love deadlines. They're motivated. And, you know, hats off to them. That is not me. But
yeah, but that isn't happening on this end.
Nope.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I saw a meme going around saying, you know, FYI, Shakespeare wrote King Lear during a lockdown during the plague. And I was like, yeah, I ain't Shakespeare. So that's not happening.
And you know what? And all those memes are about men. I'm sorry, but men can continue their work uninterrupted, whether there's a lockdown or not. They just say, I have to
juggling everything. Exactly.
Yeah. They have lives. If I had a wife, I know I could do that too.
The response should be, yeah, well, what did Shakespeare's wife do during that lockdown? Because that's the real
She certainly didn't write King Lear.
Exactly.
His children alive.
Children alive. We said the exact same thing.
Thanks.
Oh my goodness. Okay, Adriana is asking you, Julianne, how did you choose Henry Cavill as your inspiration for Philip?
Oh, he was chosen for me. My inspiration for Philip was actually a very old picture of Christian Bale when he was in his 20s and he was wearing this like button-down white shirt and he's looking tan and windblown and he's got longish wavy hair and he looks like he could be on a beach somewhere, but like a nice button-down white shirt beach.
Right.
Yeah. And no, he was my inspiration. No, Henry Cavill came along when, you know, when fans started reading and said, oh, who would be a fun actor? And at that point, Christian Bale was not young anymore.
Right.
But Henry Cavill is very beautiful. So.
Agreed.
I'm good for any beautiful man to play Philip.
That's right. Fill in with your beautiful man of choice.
Yeah.
Whatever gets you inspired, that's the right one.
Yeah. There's no wrong choice.
Oh, Sylvia is asking if either of us have cooked using an authentic Regency recipe, or have you eaten any foods based on Regency recipes? A lot of the food from this era was gross, so I don't know. Aside from things like scones or like shortbread or things like that, I haven't. Have you?
No, I would think you would, because you're a really great cook, and you do a lot of Irish recipes, right?
We eat a lot of Irish food.
Yeah.
Peasant food. It'll have potatoes, cabbage, maybe some water. Variations on that.
So no, it was gross. It was bland. They used lard. and suet and
Yeah.
but I do enjoy a good tea with with scones and clotted cream and jam and
lemon curd, good stuff like that.
Oh, I love lemon curd.
Me too. So that's as close as we've gotten, Sylvia.
Yeah.
Because we think that food is gross. If you've ever watched any of the episodes of the Great British Bake Off, where they're supposed to cook recipes from like the Tudor times or whatever, and they're cooking with all that lard and like some suet and gamey meats and stuff. Watch that and see how kind of grossed out you are. That's what the Regency food was like.
Yeah.
I'll stick to the good stuff.
I know.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Camilla is asking me, is there anything you can tell us about Charlie Jonquil's story? I can tell you this. I finished writing it last week. Well, the first draft.
Woohoo! That's awesome. Good for you.
It needs work, but it's done. So that's what I'm going to tell you about it. And that's it. I'll stop for being mean. See, we can both keep secrets, Julianne and I. We're
good at that.
Relatively.
It's all about
save it away.
It's all about protecting the muse.
That's right. Mandy is asking, are you reading anything fun other than your children's homework?
Okay. Well, I guess this is what I currently have on my nightstand, Love and Gravity. Have you read that?
That one. Mm-mm.
So I had a friend text me and say, do you want to swap books? Leave a book on your porch and I'll drive over and leave a book. Take it and leave a book. So, so I'm just a little bit into it, but it's kind of a time slip novel between a modern day teenage girl and Isaac Newton. And she's a cellist. Yeah. And then my other read currently is Prince Caspian.
Nice.
Can't go wrong with Narnia.
That's right.
What about you, Sarah?
Love it. I have been reading one. Well, I've been listening to it on Audible, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of it. It's by Alyssa Cole. It's about an African American woman in the Civil War era who's acting as a spy for the Union and has to kind of go down into the Southern Territory, which of course was dangerous for her at that time. And anyway, it's been fascinating. It's been really, really interesting.
What's it called again?
I can't remember. It's on my Audible, but it's by Alyssa Cole. So she has lots of good stuff. Yeah. And then I always have something fiction that I'm reading. And the one I've been making my way through right now is this one. It's called Dress in the Age of Jane Austen.
Oh,
it's all about Regency fashion. Yeah, it's been really fascinating. I've enjoyed that one a lot. That's what I've been doing.
That's fun. Okay, so for my nonfiction, I've been reading this, which is not, Regency at all, but really fascinating.
Great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There's my little clip.
Let's see. Carmen is asking, have you ever been tempted to write something set in a completely different time period? I think I've heard you say before that you have thought about writing contemporary. So obviously there's at least some temptation there.
Yes. Well, I think we're always tempted by what seems like it would be easier.
Yeah.
So
and then you try it and go, oh, it's not easy.
Oh, that's actually not.
Exactly.
Yeah. I have story ideas that I pursue. It's just a matter of, what's the most practical thing to do right now, because if it was up to me, I would just be jumping around. Like I'd write a fantasy, I'd write something like fairy tale inspired, and then I'd write a bunch of semi-trashy contemporary Korean romances inspired by Korean dramas. So in fact, I had an idea a couple of weeks ago when I saw some news stories about the quarantine happening, in different parts of the world. And I thought about, what if people were stranded on balconies and had this little love story between themselves across the balcony? And how fun would that be?
Right.
And And then I actually just saw a news story about a couple in New York who's doing that very thing. This guy in one apartment saw a girl dancing on her roof across the way, and she was cute, and she was just out there dancing by herself in the middle of the day. And, they're both quarantined alone in their apartment. So he sent a drone with his phone number on a piece of paper and said, text me over to her. And she got the drone.
I love it.
And then they've gone on 2 dates now so far. So the first date, he had his table on his balcony with his microwave dinner, and he had arranged for her roommate to set up a table on her roof with the same microwave dinner. And he had flowers on his table, and they FaceTimed each other during the date, and he's like, "You're beautiful."
And loving the age of quarantine. I love it.
Cute. So there are stories out there. What about you, though? The setting, I mean, you've written other historical.
A few different, time periods. I have Victorians and then like American West. And in September, I have a book coming out that's set in the Georgian era, so late 1700s. So I've moved around a little. I tried once writing a contemporary, and the feedback I got from my agent was, this reads like a historical. That's a nice way of saying, you might want to stick in your own wheelhouse there. Like, message received.
But you did write a fun contemporary short story.
I've done some short stories.
Yeah.
They're like pulling teeth for me. I write the historicals for the anthologies in a matter of weeks. And if it's a contemporary, it takes me months. It's just apparently not me. I love to read them, but I cannot write them.
It's interesting because when I try to write contemporary, I feel like I sound like I'm about 14 years old in contemporary. I'm serious. It's all about crushes and doing stupid things. Yeah. I'm like, I'm kind of still an 8th grader in the real world, I guess.
You can go like early YA.
Very early.
Maybe upper middle grade.
Yeah, exactly.
Know who you are, right? Oh, okay.
Definitely.
Corby is saying she's also reading President Nelson's book right now. So you have a reading partner.
Awesome.
Let's see. Mardine is asking, do you outline an entire story before you begin writing it, or you just let it flow as you write?
Oh, Sarah's so great at outlining. She's like the organizational queen. And I am not skilled. I am not skilled with that. I'll show you. Hold on. This is as close as I'm getting to outlining these days. I was doing this little diagram, and I was like, I'll do, my story arc. I'm like, I'll do my Edenbrook story arc to see how I did it, because I don't know how I did it. And then I'll use that to try to, and that's my secret story. I'm not telling anyone about. But I'll use that.
Twice, guys.
But then I'm also doing something like this, because see, I just don't have the same skills Sarah has. I'm doing this little story illustrated map. This is also my secret one. So it's like, oh, okay, this is where the different parts of the story take place, right? On a map, because that's how I think. I'm such a visual thinker. I don't do the linear do. It just doesn't work.
Like we were saying before, some authors are very productive in times of stress. Others are not. I think the outlining versus visual versus flow writing is just another way that authors are different from each other. Sure. I am really linear, and I am very much lists and charts and stuff like that, but not all authors are. And I think especially when we're first starting out, we feel like, oh, there has to be a way to write a story, and there just isn't. It's whatever really works for someone. If having it written out on a map is what helps your brain kind of wrap around it, and that's awesome. For some people, they know their characters' names, and if they're writing a romance, that they're going to end up together, and that's about it. And they get started, and it works just fine. It's just kind of, we're all very different.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I'm definitely an outliner, but I think I'm an outliner on the extreme end. Very few people go to the length that I do. I really don't recommend it.
The other thing I was going to say was I have synesthesia, which is kind of just a little bit different way of thinking about things. And so
Mhm.
I map everything that doesn't already have a visual representation. I've created a map for in my mind. Like I map days of the week and months of the year and decades, and everything has a map that it belongs
Right.
on. So
it makes sense that your story planning would work that same way. Rather than fighting your brain, you figure out what your brain needs and work with it. I think that's brilliant.
trying to do that, trying to be kind to my brain. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
easy to say, like, oh, look, someone else is more productive, or look, oh, someone else can get out a book in less than a few years, and then you kind of feel bad about yourself. But then, like, you just have to honor your process, honor who you are,
and
then,
where you are. Because our
yeah,
lives change so much from month to month and year to year, and in this year from day to day. That it's so easy to think I should be doing XYZ when our lives are saying, dude, everything just changed. Back up, give yourself a break.
I know. How about you just get your emergency water supply? How about that?
Yeah. You know what would have been great if you
there's
bought
another
toilet paper a month ago. That's all the things I didn't think I needed to stock up on.
I know. My poor sister is living in Japan. She hasn't had toilet paper in like 6 weeks. And someone living somewhere else in the world just sent her a package of toilet paper. She was so excited.
It's the little things. Oh my gosh. Oh, Stephanie says, this is you saying you're not so much of a linear thinker. She says, twirling would be very difficult to do linear. So
right. That's right.
Then you tell yourself that. Twirling doesn't work linear. I love that, Stephanie. 2 thumbs up on that one. Okay, and Tiffany is asking, can you expand a little on the process of book covers? Some book covers are spot on and others can't even get the hair color right. Let me expound on it. We don't pick our covers.
We don't.
How's that for an expounding? And believe me, we know that those things are wrong and they bug us probably even more than they bug you.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. In fact, sometimes, well, here's just a little example. The story that didn't get published, but has a cover. Right. Actually didn't even get written, but has a cover. That's another story altogether. My Lost in Scotland story. Not written, but they made a cover and they released the cover because they were just so excited that they couldn't wait until I wrote the story. So that.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but yes, proceed.
So that cover is floating around out there, and I was like, guys, this doesn't look Scottish at all. This is set in Scotland, and like this girl could be leaning against any brick stone building anywhere in the world, and it doesn't look Scottish. And the other thing is, this girl is like either part Asian or part Pacific Islander, but she's Scottish. This is a Scottish girl. Why does she look Asian? It's like, I love Asians and Pacific Islanders, but we're going for a Scottish girl.
Like, you've seen Sarah Eden, right?
Yeah.
That's about what they look like up there. I could have posed for it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, and I have one of my books where the lady on the cover matches down to like every single tiny detail the description of the hero's dead wife. Not the heroine of that book, his dead wife. And I still get emails. This book's been out for like 6 years. I still get emails from people saying, why is his dead wife on the cover? And I was like, because no one listens to me. So yeah, we don't pick our covers. So
we don't pick our covers. And we usually don't have any persuasive power with the people who do pick the covers.
Very seldom.
Because it didn't matter that I said she's not Polynesian. It didn't matter. They were going with it. So
yeah.
No control.
Yeah. So you just kind of go, You have a few people who are asking if Lost in Scotland or a rough draft of it will ever be available for people to peruse. And if your answer is the same as my answer about any of my rough drafts, I know what you're going to say.
Hell to the no. No.
There's a very good That's a good reason it didn't get published, right?
Good
I
reason.
think most authors will understand this, but I have a provision in my will that specifically states that no rough drafts I leave behind unfinished can ever be published.
That's really smart.
Requirement.
That's really smart.
There's a reason I didn't put it out in my lifetime. I don't want you putting it out and telling people it's a long lost book of mine. It's not. It's a rough draft.
No.
It'll ruin everything.
No. No.
Oh,
No.
man.
Lost in Scotland was like the 2020 of my book career. It was going to be the dumpster fire.
Yep. Yeah,
So.
and sometimes that is the reason a project stalls out, because of what's going on while you're writing it. Like, I think it's hard to explain the emotional connection we have to what we're writing. And sometimes the emotional aspect of it just stalls out a project and there's no getting back to it. It's
gone. It's dead.
Yeah.
It's better to just bury it. The other thing is, from a legal standpoint, I had to, through my divorce proceedings, I had to kind of testify that Lost in Scotland would never be published. Otherwise, I was going to have to pay half of all the royalties I ever made from it, which I didn't want to do.
So. Why not?
I know. Why shouldn't I? Give away half of everything I earned. So.
Oh, there was a question I saw that I was going to ask you. Let me go back and find it. I thought it was a great question because I want to know the answer too. Okay, here it is from Valerie. It says, Julianne, would you ever do a story for Cecily Edenbrooke's Marianne's sister?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've played around with the story for her. And I think that it could be in the lineup at some point. And I think for Cecily, I would start with Marianne and Philip's wedding as like the first scene for her.
Awesome.
And then I would make sure that she got caught kissing Mr. Kellett at the wedding somewhere, in a dark corner at the wedding.
We can make it happen.
Oh, yeah.
Weddings are full of dark corners.
Yeah, exactly. All that candlelight produces a lot of dark corners. And then she gets sent off to live in the, hinterlands, somewhere far away because of her scandal. And then she has to have a little wake-up call in life. I think that's how I would start hers. So
I think that's a great start. Make a map for that one.
Yeah.
I vote yes on that one. Fantastic. Corby is asking if the provision in my will about not publishing rough drafts, was it inspired by literally everything Jane Austen ever wrote being published? It actually was inspired by Go Set a Watchman by Harper Lee being published after she had kind of started to lose her faculties and I think she has passed away, I'm pretty sure. But it was published as a new book as the long lost book but it was actually just an early draft of To Kill a Mockingbird. And I thought, that is not going to happen to me. So that was when I said, nope, I'm putting this provision in because that's horrible. It was every author's worst nightmare.
Yeah, totally. I'm sure she's rolling over in her grave about that.
Yeah, she's like, are you kidding me? It was a draft. There's a reason we didn't publish that version of it.
No.
Oh, Valerie is saying, do it, as in write Cecily's story. She wants to hear it. So see, Valerie and I are saying map that one out to get to eventually, obviously, when your brain is ready for it. Lisa is asking if we ever have, and I don't know if she means between the two of us or just in general, have wars where you have to write as fast as you can for a limited amount of time and then see who wrote the most. So kind of like a writing sprint or that kind of thing.
Yeah, they're called writing sprints. Not usually handwritten because our hands get tired.
Yes.
But often, at different retreats or in writing groups, we will do sprints. It can be a helpful way to kind of get things flowing.
Right. I found a lot of times it's just the getting started that's the hardest. And once you do and you get into it a little, then the words kind of start to come again. So
yeah.
Okay, Heidi is asking, in Blackmore, do they go back in the end because he gets the house back or just for a visit?
Oh, okay. So the ending of Blackmore is like my version of Inception, where you don't know exactly how it ends. And I
Interesting.
intentionally left it vague so that you could interpret it either way. Either they go back to Blackmore, or they're going to their own beautiful home that they've created or have bought with his earnings working in India. They can make so much money in India,
That time, yeah.
you know? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they'd come back with enough money to buy an estate easily.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so I personally didn't make a decision about which ending it was, whether they're going back to Blackmore or back to their own home. I never made that decision. So it's entirely up to you how you want to interpret that. What you think is going to make them happiest, that's you to
Exactly.
decide.
That's what I was going to say. It's fantastic because each reader gets to pick what for them constitutes the happiest ending.
Yeah.
And it works
exactly.
no matter what version of it you've created, because the way you wrote it allows it to work that way, which I think is fantastic. So
Thanks.
so your answer is, well, what did you think?
What
Because
do you
that's
think?
the correct answer.
That is. Yeah. And if someone said, oh, no, but really, what is it? I'm like, no, I really did not
I
make that
promise
decision.
you.
I did not.
I left it open-ended on purpose.
Mhm.
Chloe says if you write a Cecily story, she will die happy. Okay, that's 3 votes now.
Okay.
Okay, Carmen wants to know, do you have a favorite type of character to write? Like a quiet type, a strong type, optimistic? Like, do you have a favorite or something you gravitate toward?
Well, I like flirty, charming men. I like to write flirty, charming men. But as far as female characters, I just tend to write variations of myself, and so they often come across as a little awkward, a little insecure, a little, strong,
Right.
but a little again insecure, just variations of myself. So I don't know. What about you, Sarah? What do you like?
Like, that's probably why all my female characters are opinionated. Because they're
There we
writing what
go.
they'll see.
Because they're actually redheads, all of
I
them.
actually have a lot of characters who are redheaded and didn't really realize it until I was talking with a publisher about a cover. And I was like, oh, another redheaded heroine. I gravitate
Hey.
towards that. I wonder why. I don't know. I think probably the underlying character trait you find in all of mine, even in the variations of characters, is that they're kind. I think it must be something I value in
Yeah.
people. It doesn't mean that they're all the same. Some of them are more outgoing, some are more reserved, some are more confident, some are more meek, but they're all underneath it, at least trying to be kind. So that must be something I value in a character because it comes up a lot.
Yeah, I think that's great. Becky says that's why we like all your female characters. I'm guessing that's about you.
What about you? Because I love characters who are a little awkward because I am too. So I feel like, look, awkwardness works. How is the awkward girls, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Okay, and another question I saw up here, and this is for you. How many kids do you think Philip and Marianne would have? It's an interesting forward-thinking question.
I know. Well, for their sakes, I hope not many.
Says the single mom who is currently under stay-at-home orders with her children. You're like fewer than I have right now.
So, I don't ever think that far with my characters, Like for me, the story ends where the story ends.
Right.
And it doesn't expand any further than what I've written, like that's where the story exists. And I think
Right.
when I wrote Eden Brook, it was very much an escape from my own life because I had 3 and then 4 little kids while I was writing it. I was in that baby stage, little kid stage, and you'll notice that there's not a single child in the story, not a single one.
You're like, look, that's happening in real life. I don't need it in fake life too.
Right? So I would just like to imagine that Philip and Marianne are always, young, always free, always wealthy, always happy.
There you go. It's like you're ending with Blackmore. You're like, however many you think led to their happiness.
Right.
You finish the rest of the story. Oh, Corby is saying, honestly, the best people and characters are opinionated and a little bit awkward. So say between us, we make some pretty great characters.
Yes.
Perfect.
In fact, someone said up here, have you guys ever thought about writing something together? Did someone ask that?
I think I saw something along those lines.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all just scrolling now because we've gotten a lot of comments, which is awesome.
I know. It's so great to see everyone here.
There you go. It's from Sylvia. Have the two of you considered collaborating on a Regency series? That could be a lot of fun.
It could be fun.
It would be super awkward and opinionated.
It would be.
And no children, apparently.
No kids. No kids.
With lots of open-ended questions, so it's a choose your own adventure romance.
I loved choose your own adventure stories when I was a kid.
Me too.
Loved them.
Me too. They were the best.
I would follow every possible train until I'd considered every possible choice and gotten to the end, every variable. Yeah. I love those.
Me too.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just saw another one. Another question. Airborne Legend. How do you juggle motherhood and writing?
When I get that question, I always say not very well.
No. Not well.
It's a struggle. And I don't have as many kids as you do. And, as a single mom, that just adds an extra layer of difficulty to that. So
there's a reason I haven't published a book in how many years? A lot of years, right?
Blackmore was your last one, right? That was 2013.
Oh gosh. There's
that was the same year as Longing for Home. So
so I had a caboose. I had a surprise caboose. Right after I got pregnant with him after Blackmore.
Mm-hmm.
And he's 5 right now. So it's it just
life happens. Yeah, and you get to where there are just too many balls. One of them has to drop, and you're going to drop writing before you're going to drop a kid. You know what I mean? Like it's the way it has to be, because that's the order of importance. And so sometimes you juggle it by setting that ball down, and that's okay.
And that it is.
We're getting an upvote for a choose your own adventure romance. It could be fun to do in the Regency era, though, because someone makes a breach of etiquette. Do you?
That could be really fun. I know.
Ostracized.
And I think we should have like multiple heroes that our heroine could end up with.
Yes. This would be, so fun. That would be a lot of fun. Plans are happening.
Maybe.
Except if we do this during the apocalypse, every choice will probably lead to ostracism and being forced to live alone in the country. Did I mention there are no good choices?
You will die alone and unhappy. That is your ending.
Wait, every single ending. Every time it says go to page 25. Like, look, we were not in a great mood when we wrote this, okay? Everyone's discovering what happens when the two of us get together. We did a little mini proper romance tour when Julianne and I were the only proper romance authors in that line. And it was this for 3 days.
It was fun.
Also getting lost. It was pretty ridiculous.
And we were both sick. I was sick with morning sickness, and you were sick with your RA. And it was, there were some miserable moments.
There were. And
fun.
Half of the stores we went to didn't know I was coming, so they didn't have any of my books or a chair for me.
I know.
But luckily, I was in my wheelchair at the time, so I just stayed in my wheelchair. And you felt so horrible the whole time with the morning sickness.
Oh gosh,
we were like, it's so glamorous being
and
an
we're
author.
driving around, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna puke. I need Cheetos and Diet Coke. Like that's all I wanted to eat.
Oh, it was a very interesting welcome to the proper romance line. I was like, yes, I've hit the big time now. Oh, we had fun. We had a good time.
We did.
All right. Well, we are at about 40 minutes. These usually run about 45. So let's grab just a couple more questions, and then we can wrap it up, and you can go look after your children who have miraculously left you alone for 40 minutes.
It is pretty miraculous, especially because it's dinner time, and I'm usually cooking right now. So, yay!
So hey, the stars aligned.
I know. So someone says, how about, oh, Carol C says, how about a story with Marion and Philip's daughter and Kendrick Jonquil? She could be jealous of Julia, not realizing she was her twin.
So they're talking about a crossover, a child of Marianne Phillips, so from Edenbrook, and then the son of one of the Jonquil brothers in my books. They could end up together, which could be a lot of fun. But those books are with different publishers, so
we can't
unite worlds. We can't do that. But it's fun to think about.
Would be
fun. And that's kind of a fun thing about fan fiction. Is you can imagine all of those things that we aren't allowed to write. So.
Yeah. And that's something that I don't think most people realize, is that my publisher owns the world that I created. Same with Sarah's publisher. Sarah's publisher owns the world, all the characters in it and the places. So same with mine.
You can't go and write those anywhere else unless they contractually release you from that, and that almost never happens. So yeah. They stick with the publisher they're with.
Yeah.
Valerie wants to know if the kids are duct taped in the closet. I'm sure that's been a temptation in the past few weeks. Like we may be out of toilet paper, but we still got duct tape, kids. Oh my goodness.
Okay, Valerie. One last one. Valerie says, I like the children in Sarah's books. Leighton's daughter, so cute. And the kids in Hope Springs. Children in books work if you do it right, like Sarah. That's
awesome. Well, thank you. You do always wonder, right? When you put a book out, you're like, are people going to find this annoying? Just grateful when they don't. So it's not sad that that's the bar, to just not annoy people when you're writing. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, unless you have any more secrets you'd like to inadvertently spill on our feed, I think we'll probably wrap it up here.
Secrets.
You caught yourself earlier, so because it is live, there's no editing it out.
I know.
Oh my goodness. Well, a big thank you to everyone who popped in and commented. This was fun. We should do it again.
Thank you.
Because we don't get to hang out a lot, and this is a lot of fun.
I know. This is actually like no pressure. Like I just felt like I was chatting with you.
Yay. That's what I always hope it's like, because I'm lonely. So
oh God,
I just want to chat with people.
I only have my kids to talk to, and I'm tired of telling them to stop asking me what's civilization. I'm not going to tell you that. Do your homework.
Learn it. Oh my gosh. Yes, adult conversation is always a plus. Oh man. Well, everyone's saying thanks and they enjoyed it. Yeah. You guys as well. This was a lot of fun. All right.
Thanks,
awesome.
Everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for doing this, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. All right. See ya.
Stay strong.
All right. That should end it.